Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am Alison. I write as Alison May, 50% of Juliet Bell, and most recently as Sinclair. And here on YouTube I talk about all things writing and publishing related. Today's topic is agent hunting, but before we get into that, I just want to give a little heads up to some courses and things I have coming up in the next few months. As well as doing this on YouTube, I also run online and face-to-face writing courses and offer mentoring for writers 1-to-1. If you are interested in any of that, you need to go here, fictiontutors.co.uk, and you can find out about everything that I do in that front, and also about our debut author club, which is a subscription club, really low cost. It's £10 a month for newly contracted, newly agented, newly published authors. So if you find yourself in that position where you've been working so hard to get a publishing deal and you get that and that feels like the finishing line, and then as soon as it happened you discover that's not the finishing line, it's the start of a whole other race that now you're a published author you're supposed to magically know the rules to. If you find yourself in that position and you really feel like you would like someone to hold your hand, be a sounding board, answer any questions that you may have, do check out the Debut Author Club. I'll put all the links to that down below in the video description. But today the topic is finding an agent. So before I get too deep into this, I want to give you a heads up that some of the things I'm going to talk about are kind of specific to how this works in the UK. So if you're in Australia, the US, Canada, New Zealand, wherever, there will be differences. It doesn't mean that this isn't helpful, but just do your research and make sure you tailor what you're doing to how agents and publishing works in your market. So this is from a UK perspective, but like I say, there will be stuff that is totally transferable. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about why you might want an agent. We can do that in another video if people are interested, the pros and cons of being agented or just working on your own. If you're interested in that, let me know in the comments and we'll talk about it elsewhere. Today we're just going to talk about the practicalities of looking for an agent if you've decided that that's what you want. First thing to say, it's not easy to get an agent. There are a lot more authors seeking agents than there are slots on agents' lists, but that doesn't mean that it's hopeless. I think some people at times have the attitude of there's no point trying because you won't get anywhere. Agents are gatekeepers. Agents don't really want new clients. None of that is true. Most agents are actively seeking new authors. If they're not, they will generally tell you on their website that their list is closed. But most agents, if something drops in their inbox that they're really excited about, that's a really good day for them. They're people who get excited about books. So if they find an author who they think is going to deliver work that they're really excited about and really feel they can sell and really feel they can champion, that's a good day for an agent. So don't go into it kind of too pessimistically, but do go into this realistically. It's gonna be tough. And what you're going to do if you're seeking an agent, what you need to do is treat this like a business. Because ultimately publishing is a business. Your book is now a product that you are trying to persuade somebody to represent and sell on your behalf. So we're putting our business brain on. And that can be really tricky because effectively writers, to be successful and to be career authors, we kind of almost have to have three different mindsets. We have our creative brain when we're writing our first draft. We have our analytical and slightly more kind of methodical brain when we are editing, analytical and critical. And then we have to go into kind of business and admin mode when we're looking for an agent or looking for a publisher. And it's really unusual, I think, for any one individual to be naturally brilliant at all of those things. So if you do find, parts of this process a bit tricky or a bit alien, don't be too down on yourself about that. It's completely normal. It's completely to be expected. What I would say is that you just have to take a deep breath and treat this as business. So how do you start? You start by making a list of agents that you would like to submit to. How do you find out who is out there? I would suggest that for the UK market at least, the best place is still the Writers and Artists Yearbook. This is a 2016 edition. 2016 is not entirely coincidentally the year that I signed with my agent, so I haven't bought a copy of this since because I have an agent, and when I come to submit to publishers, she does it for me. So that's why this is the 2016 copy, is the one I have on my shelf. Prior to this, if I was subbing directly, I would have bought this like every year or every other year. But you get the most current edition. It comes out in the summer, in July, August time. So I'm recording this in September, the 2023 edition, possibly the 2024 edition. I'm never quite sure how they year them. How they year them? Did that make a sentence? I have no idea if that made a sentence. I'm just looking to see when this was published. Yeah, so this was published in 2015. It's the 2016 edition. So the one that's just out now will be the 2024 edition. This book, the Writers and Artists Yearbook, effectively is a directory of newspapers, magazines, publishers, literary agents. So you find the literary agents section, which I'm just going to flick to now, and all it gives you is a directory of literary agencies in the territory. So literary agents in the UK and Ireland, and it is simply a directory list. Doesn't give a huge amount of detail about any individual agency, but it gives you contact details, website address. We usually give their basic submission guidelines, so you know, whether they represent not fiction or non-fiction or both, whether they represent children's or adult or both. Some places don't take on any new clients. They're small boutique agencies, one agent, they have a full list. If they're not open to submissions at all, it will probably tell you that. So you start here with those basic directory listings, and anywhere that looks possible, I would suggest that you then hop onto their website and look at them in a bit more detail. Now, the first thing you're going to look at is the list of agents with that agency. And most agencies, if they have multiple agents, will have a bio of each agent, which will give you some sense of what sort of thing they're looking for and what sort of thing they represent. And you're going to look for agents that are the best fit to the sort of thing that you've written and the sort of thing that you want to write. And then after you've looked at the individual agent biographies, you're going to look at their submission guidelines. Most agencies ask you to submit to an individual named agent. Occasionally you'll see one that says just submit to the agency, we will look at your submission and we will allocate it to the most appropriate agent, but normally they ask you to submit to a named agent. And the etiquette generally is that you do that. You pick one agent per agency and you submit there. Now, generally, I would say that's it. It's one agent per agency. The exception to that would be if you have the same piece and it's like 2 years later and a new agent comes along, then totally submit to that agency again. It's fine. Nobody's going to remember. Or if you meet someone in person and they say, oh, send that to me, don't let the fact that you've already submitted to another agent at their agency and they've rejected you put you off submitting to that person that you've met in real life. So what you're doing at this stage, though, is you're going through that directory, you're going onto the websites, you're looking at agent bios, you're looking at submission guidelines, you're making yourself a list. You're making yourself a list of all the agents that you could submit to. And I would suggest that if you're writing commercial fiction, if you're writing something fairly mainstream in the UK market, I would expect that list to have probably 30 plus names on it. The submission list that I made in 2016 when I was sending all that was lost out on submission, I think had 40 names on that list. And then what I always suggest doing is sending out in batches of about 5 submissions at a go. And be bold about this. Put the agents that you most want, put the people who would be your dream agent at the top of the list and send to them first. I think there's a tendency for people to go, oh, well, I'm scared to send to them because what if they reject it? Well, then you won't be represented by them. But if you don't send it to them, you definitely won't be represented by them. There's also a tendency to go, oh, well, I don't want to send to them first because what if I get some feedback and I want to change it and I want to make it better? And I understand that concern, but let's flip it round and say, what if you don't submit to your favourite agents first, the people you'd most love to be repped by, and one of the people you do submit to first offers you representation? Are you going to take it, or are you going to be thinking, oh gosh, the first person I submitted to offered me representation, maybe I should have gone for one of the ones I really, really wanted? You're creating a quandary for yourself that you don't need to have. So I say be bold, go for your dream agencies first and send to them first. What you're then going to do is you're going to make yourself a list, either on paper. I would suggest a spreadsheet is ideal for this. I think a spreadsheets are ideal for many things. I love a spreadsheet, and this is definitely a spreadsheet moment where you're going to put the name of the agent, their email address and website, so you've got their contact details captured. You're going to put the date that you submitted to them, and then you're going to put the date that you expect to hear back. So if it says on the agency website, we will respond to queries within X weeks, you put that date. If it says, if you haven't heard from us within X weeks, assume it's a rejection, you put that date. If it doesn't give a date at all, I would suggest probably 10 weeks, sort of 2 months, 2.5 months, 3 months, somewhere in that kind of bracket is a reasonable amount of time to allow. So put that date down. What I generally suggest is about 2 weeks before that cut-off date, you send a very polite, brief reminder email that just says, hi, sorry to get in touch again. I'm just checking that you received my submission, reattached here for your convenience. And you reattach your whole submission to that email just to pop it back up to the top of their inbox. And then when you get to that cut-off date, that 2 weeks later cut-off date, if you haven't heard, you assume it's a rejection and you send to the next person on your list. So you're always keeping kind of 5 or 6 submissions out there. Every time you get a rejection or a submission times out, you send to the next one on your list. And you keep doing that until you get to the bottom of your list of 30 or 40 agents. And then when you get to the bottom of that, you do another sweep for anyone who is new out there. And you send to those agents. While this is going on, because this is a purely administrative task, this is not your full-time job, while this is going on, you are writing your next book. So by the time you have exhausted all of that list, you have something else, hopefully, pretty close to being ready to send out. So this is a business admin task, and you squish it after you've done your initial research. You squash it into like half a day a week at most, maybe an hour a week at most. And you just keep those submissions out there, so you have 5 or 6 out at any given time. That is my whistle-stop tour of the logistics of looking for an agent. If this is interesting, let me know in the comments and I will come back next week or in a couple of weeks and we'll look in a bit more detail at the actual submission pack, and we'll talk about synopses and writing query letters and what to send and some do's and don'ts and all of that jazz. The headline, fairly obviously, is look at each agency's submission guidelines and follow the guidelines. But if you'd like a deep dive into writing a synopsis or writing a query letter, let me know below and we will do that in a couple of weeks. As always, please, please, please like and subscribe to the channel. Subscriber numbers make a huge difference to YouTube content creators, and I have hardly any. It's gone up a bit in the last few weeks actually. It has definitely made a difference to my visibility. So please, 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 please do subscribe to the channel if this sort of content is interesting. If there's anything at all you would like a video about in the future, let me know in the comments below. And for now, I will see you next Friday.